Back live on SportsCenter. As you may be aware, I am not a social media fiend. I would use a periscope to look into the ocean, not invade your lunch date. And I think a Vine is a cheap imitation of a Twizzler. But I am among the very few that feel I can actually live without a status update, which for me right now is sitting here talking to you. Though the guys you root for and we cover here at ESPN could not disagree more. They use social media for anything and everything. Here's your visual evidence. Remember all the friction between the Kings, George Karl wanting to trade DeMarcus Cousins? Does this look like they're at odds? It looks like they're best friends. Throwing it out there on Instagram. Give them something to talk about, courtesy of Boogie. And this one got a lot of attention. When David Price got traded from the Tigers to the Jays, he was on his way to the press conference when his car, which appears to be slightly more expensive than the one I drive, ended up having a flat tire. And Jays fans who saw the Instagram post immediately hit Price back and said, "Where are you? I will come pick you up." It is amazing what social media has done. So the intersection of social media and sports is where we head next. Often said that fan is short for fanatic, and nobody knows that better than our next guest. Justine Gubar has written a book entitled Fanaticus, Mischief and Madness in the Modern Sports Fan, and she joins us tonight. Really cool subject, Justine. Right off the bat, since we just talked about social media, and I know it's a large part of your book, how has the rise of the entire phenomenon that is social media changed the way we root as sports fans?
Well, you mentioned the connectiveness. We get so much closer to our athletes as fans now through social media. You can tweet at athletes and you can tweet at other fans. In my book, Fanaticus, I talk about two Boston Red Sox fans who met over Twitter and actually got married. So there's this great connectiveness, but then there's also this downside when people get rude and abrasive and nasty, and we see people reaching out to athletes with some real nasty sentiments, even death threats. We see other fans reaching out to fans, and we see fans reaching out to journalists and saying some not very nice things. So you really get both sides.
Yeah, you've got to live with both. Let's go back to the death threats here, because that's the one that kind of just, when you said it, it kind of struck me. These sports leagues, whether it's the NFL or whomever, when somebody just says, you know, I'm so frustrated over this loss, I could kill somebody, or when somebody does something pretty emotional and visceral or tweets at somebody, in the book you write that these sports leagues, they're not assuming that this is just somebody blowing off steam. They take these words very literally and very seriously.
Well, wouldn't you hate to make that mistake? And, you know, someone says, I could kill him, and then, God forbid, something goes wrong. And the challenge of social media is the scale. How many tweets get sent a day? So it's really hard for anyone in any area to monitor everything, but it makes sense to do your best to monitor things that sound really hateful.
No, I think that's a very fair point. I mean, even amongst our colleagues here, generally speaking, when somebody asks about your Twitter feed, I'm not included in this conversation because I don't do Twitter, but generally the question is, how many followers do you have? It's something that obviously is a top-of-mind issue. Now, seemingly every sports fan engages in trash talk, maybe some more than others, fair to say, leads us to the moments we all remember, tip-top trash talk like this.
What is the purpose of trash talking?
Man, the purpose is, you know, if you can get in the guy's head, go for it.
This man will be completely outclassed. You got time. This will be no contest. That's all I want to say.
I've been sitting on the top of the throne for 17 years.
If I see him in a snowstorm, his truck is broke down, mine is going perfectly. Would I pick him up? No.
You can't tell me that man don't look like a horse. I'm telling you, the man look like Mr. Ed, but you know, he talks a lot. So I'm waiting for him to show his teeth in there.
Just want to know where he was in Game 3. Probably getting his jock out of the stands out of the Rafters United Center, man.
I can't really hear what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings plugged in my ear.
Got one more than Shaq, so you can take that to the bank.
Do you ever see the day that it would be possible for you to sit down, have a talk with Kobe Bryant?
Who? Give me a shot. And they came at me, that's when I'm like, you done lost your mind.
Every time they get a guy, they build him up, and you know what I do? Smack him down.
Good stuff. It's all a part of being a fan. Good trip down memory lane there. So I got to ask you, we saw the greatest of all time. We saw Mayweather, we saw Kobe, we saw Shaq, we saw Sharp, Wah, all these guys, all engaging in trash talk. Different sports, same deal. You kind of go to the genesis of trash talk in your book and try to cultivate where the phenomenon all began. What can you tell us about where all this trash talk started?
Well, a few summers ago, I spent some time peeling through a dusty museum in Rome, trying to find out about the origins and our history of trash talking. And I actually came across these decaying metal objects. They're called curse tablets. And what they were 4th century pieces of metal that basically fans cursed out rival chariot drivers. So really, trash talk has been going on since the dawn of sport.
Fair to say. So we've gone from trash talking on stone tablets in the 4th century to 140 characters on Twitter and then everything in between. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's visceral. People just get into stuff. Before I let you go, what's the one thing you learned about fan behavior in all the research you did from Rome back to your desk there in Northern California that surprised you the most?
Good question.
Thank you.
I would say that there's some science behind it all, and that the people who are known as rioters are responding to their team who has won. What I mean by that is we hear about these celebration riots, and you know, your team wins a national championship, does really well in the tournament, and all of a sudden fans are running around the streets, flipping over cars, burning mattresses. Well, I learned about the why behind that, and to me that was really interesting. Studies show that when your team wins, testosterone rises, and that's the hormone of aggression. So I think that's pretty interesting to understand that your team wins, you should be celebrating, but you're actually physically getting a little jacked up. And that may be why we see these celebration riots.
It's a great point. If you talk to somebody that doesn't follow sports and you watch a burning car or a burning mattress, that person would just think, boy, their team must have lost. They must be frustrated. When in fact, it's the polar opposite. They've decided to celebrate by burning things. It's amazing. The book is so good. There's so many interesting things in there. It's called Fanaticus, Mischief and Madness in the Modern Sports Fan. Real quick, where can people get the book?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your favorite online retailer, and I have a website, fanaticusthebook.com, and check your local bookstore.
Indeed. We'll do all of those. Fanaticus, Mischief and Madness in the Modern Sports Fan. Justine, thanks so much. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.